factor and solve quadratic equation. Welcome to this video where we'll try to solve three different quadratic equations. So what do I mean by quadratic equations? So every time you see equation where the highest exponent, the highest power of the variable is 2, like I highlighted 2 here in blue, that means you have a quadratic equation. So let's solve the first one. Solve x squared minus 5x plus 6 is equal to 0. So we need, some tips like here. They say make sure that one side of the quadratic equation is 0. So it's already made to 0. So we don't need to worry. The second tip is here, times table. In math, if you know your times table, that will help you to save a few minutes when you are solving math problems. Okay, so here we'll try to find two numbers, and the two numbers will be negative numbers. We're going to find two numbers, and the multiplication of the two numbers give you positive 6. The same two numbers add, give you negative 5. You have to understand that to solve a quadratic equation, we need to factor out the expression. So to factor out this x squared minus 5x plus 6, this is the process, So the two negative numbers multiplied together give you 6, but add give you negative 5. Yes, that's the only possibility. Because you cannot find two different numbers where the sign are different and the multiplication will give you positive. It's not possible. So it has to be same sign. And here, because the sum is negative, that means the two numbers are negative. Now, to find these two numbers, yes, again, we need a times table, but they're going to be helpful if you make a table. So in that table, in the first column, we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, I don't have a space. Let's stop at 4. So in one column, we have a counting numbers. Now in the second column, we will play this game. What number multiplied by 1 give you 6? It has to be 6. So 1 times 6 is 6. But we say that the numbers will be negative. So I can place negative sign here, negative sign here. And yes, negative 1 multiplied by negative 6 is positive 6. But negative 1 plus negative 6, is it negative 5? No. So the two numbers are not negative 1 and negative 6. We move to 2. Okay, 2 multiplied by what number give you 6? 2 multiplied by 3. And again, because we said that the two numbers will be negative, let's place the negative sign. So negative 2 multiplied by negative 3 is positive 6. Now let's check. Negative 2 plus negative 3 is negative 5. Yes. Okay. So we found the two numbers. We don't need to continue. But in case we didn't find the two numbers, we have to try again by 3, by 4, and so on. So that will take time, That's why it's very important to learn times table. And knowing your times table, you can just find these numbers without making the table here. Okay, so we say that the two numbers are negative 2 and the negative 3. Negative 2 and negative 3. After you find the two numbers, now you're going to factor out x squared minus 5x plus 6. So let's do that. We're going to keep x squared. Now the negative 5x, we're going to use the two numbers with x. So we're going to have negative 3. X minus 2. X plus 6 is equal to 0. So you will see that the negative 5x, I broke it down using the two numbers with x. So if you check negative 3x minus 2x is negative 5. Okay, so we'll try to combine the expression here 2 by 2. So we have x squared minus 3x. We have a negative 2x plus 6 is equal to 0. Now, if you combine 2 by 2, we will try to factor out using greater common factor called GCF, greater common factor. In x squared minus 3x, what's going to be the GCF, the greater common factor? It has to be x. So I have that x, parentheses. Inside, I'm going to have x minus 3. So you have to understand that when I use x as a GCF, that means what? In x squared, I have x. In negative 3x, I have x. Now, when I have that x as a GCF, what multiplied by x gives me x squared? I put that in the parentheses, which is x. Minus what multiplied by x gives me the 3x is 3. And I close the parentheses. So that is the way you check your work to see if that works. So again, you take x and multiply by x, that gives you x squared. You take the same x and multiply by negative 3, that gives you negative 3s. And yes, that is our original expression. Okay, we continue. Now you have a negative 2x, so the other two terms, negative 2x plus 6, and you will factor this. So the GCF here will be negative 2. Parentheses, x minus 3, and you close it. Yes, you have to understand that at this step, what you have here is repeated here. So you can know how to play with the factor, because negative 2 multiplied by x gives you negative 2x. The same negative 2 multiplied by negative 3 gives you positive 6. So that is correct. Okay, remember this is an equation we are solving. So we need to put here is equal to 0. Now, almost done. We'll try, to finish the factoring part, which is to make this parenthesis. And here you're going to have x minus 3. So the same factor we have, okay, as this one here and this one. And now what we have outside, so leftover, will be x minus 2, and is equal to 0. Okay, so we factor the expression x squared minus 5x plus 6. And now we're going to solve it. So for that, we'll split the equation in two parts. Okay, so we're going to take each part. So we're going to have x minus 3 is equal to 0. We're going to solve for that. So we're going to add the 3, and we have x is equal to 3. We're going to take the second part, which is x minus 2 is equal to 0. We add the 2, and we get x is equal to 2. So the solutions for this equation are x equals 3 and x equals 2. So again, it's very, very important, to know how to factor out the quadratic expression, which will help you to solve the quadratic equation. So let's solve the second question. Solve 2x squared plus 3x minus 2 is equal to 0. Okay, you have to understand that this equation has a coefficient for the x squared, and that coefficient is 2. But the first equation we solve, the coefficient that is 1. So it's like invisible 1. Okay, so when the coefficient is not 1, that means you have to pay attention to the two numbers we're going to find. So the two numbers we'll find, we will use the coefficient of the x squared multiplied by that number without x. So we're going to take a 2, which is the coefficient of x squared, multiplied by negative 2, which is that constant without a variable, and that gives you negative 4. Therefore, we're going to find two numbers. We multiply the two numbers, we get negative 4. The same two numbers, we add, and we get positive 3, the middle number. So the difference between this equation and the previous one is that we have a 2, or we have a coefficient for x squared, which is not a 1. And for the multiplication part, when we find the two numbers, we have to make sure that the multiplication of the two numbers give you the multiplication of the coefficient of x squared and that constant, that number without x. So in the tips here, they say make sure that one side of quadratic equation is 0, which is the case. So no problem. Again, times table is important. Now find two numbers with different sign. Yes. To find two numbers where the multiplication give you negative result and the addition give you positive, that means the two numbers are what? One negative and one positive. That's the only condition the multiplication give you negative result. And now, if you continue in the tip, they said the largest number gets the plus sign. Yes, that's why the sum is positive, but the multiplication is negative. Okay, so again, we'll try to make a table. Make a table to see how to find these two numbers. So in the first column, we're gonna put counting numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. In the second column, we'll ask this question. So what number multiplied by 1 give me negative 4? So it has to be negative 4. But they say something here. The largest number get the positive sign. So having 4 here, I will put negative 4, 1. So negative 1 multiplied by 4 is negative 4. That works. But can we say that negative 1 plus 4 is 3? Yes. Wow. So we get this in the first try. So that means what? We don't need to continue. So we have a negative 1, positive 4, negative 1, positive 4. But suppose you try for 1, doesn't work. You have to continue for 2. If 2 doesn't work, you try for 3 and so on. But you don't need this table if you know your times table. Yeah. Okay, after we find the two numbers, again, we're going to rewrite the expression. This expression has 3 terms, but we need to rewrite it as 4 terms. So we go here, we keep the 2x squared. Okay, now the 3x, we're going to write it as negative 1x plus 4x minus 2 is equal to 0. Again, remember, the two numbers we found here, negative 1 and the positive 4, are used, to rewrite the middle term, the expression with x. So at the yes, if you check negative 1x plus 4x, give you what? Positive 3x. Now we're going to take the expression here 2 by 2. So the terms 2 by 2, we take the first 2 and the last 2. We're going to factor out using, again, GCF, greater common factor. So in 2x squared minus 1x, what's going to be the common factor here? It have to be just 1x. Okay, parentheses. So inside, we're going to have 2x minus 1. Okay. Yes, you have to understand that 1x is same as x. So we can write it as x. Okay. And if you check your work, x multiplied by 2x is 2x squared. X multiplied by negative 1 is negative 1x. We continue. So the other part is going to be plus 2 parentheses 2x minus 1. Okay, so it's equal to 0. So in 4x minus 2, the greater common factor here is 2. And yes, if you check your work, 2 times 2x is 4x. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. So we're going to have the thing like this. Okay, is equal to 0. In the first parenthesis, you're going to have a 2x minus 1. And now in the second parenthesis, you have the leftover x plus 2, the GCF. And this is equal to 0. Please, you have to understand that at this step, you must get the same factor in the parentheses, 2x minus 1, 2x minus 1. Okay, so to finish the equation here, we will split the factor in 2. So we take the first part, 2x minus 1, we set it equal to 0, and we're going to solve for x. For that, We will add the 1 on both sides. We have a 2x is equal to 1. And to solve for x, we're going to divide it by 2, and we have x is equal to 1 over 2. Now, we take the second part, which is what? We have x plus 2 is equal to 0. We're going to subtract the 2 on both sides, and we get x is equal to -2. So the two solutions for this equation are x equals -2 and x equals 1 over 2. Now let's solve the last question for this video. Solve 4x squared plus 9 is equal to 12x. They say here, make sure that one side of the quadratic equation is 0, which is not the case here. So we don't have one side as a 0. We're gonna make. So having 4x plus 9 is equal to 12x to make one side to 0 is gonna be simple if you make the right side to 0. For that, we'll subtract 12x on both sides. So you'll understand that the equation will turn to 4x squared plus 9 minus 12x is equal to 0. So this is going to cancel out. Now, we'll try to arrange, the exponent here from highest to lowest. Therefore, we're going to have a 4x squared minus 12x plus 9 is equal to 0. Remember, in the previous equations, we have x with the highest exponent. After that, we have x with no exponent, which is like an invisible 1, and we have a number without exponent. So in descending order, we have this expression brought like this. Okay. Again, if you see in the tips, they say find the two negative numbers. The thing is this, we're going to find two numbers, right? Where the multiplication of the two numbers give you 4 multiplied by 9. Yes, it's very important. When there is a coefficient for x squared, which is not a 1, you multiply that coefficient by the constant. The constant is the number without x. Yeah. So you multiply that. So 4 multiplied by 9 give you 36. But if there is no coefficient for x squared, we just use the number, the constant. So the multiplication of the two numbers will give you that constant. Again, I repeat. In case, which was the previous example, in case you have a coefficient for x squared, you take that coefficient and you multiply by the constant, so the number without the x. So that means when you find the two numbers, the multiplication of the two numbers will give you the result found from the coefficient of x squared and that number without x, which is here 36. Okay. So the same two numbers, we add, and we get what? The middle term, which is here, -12. So again, we needed that table. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. We'll try to see what number multiplied by 1 give you 36. In the thing, we said that we need to find two negative numbers. Yes, two negative numbers. Because multiply two numbers, you get positive, and the sum give you negative result, means the two numbers are negative. So we're going to have a 36 here, but because we need two negative numbers, we're going to say -1 and -36. Yes, that gives you positive 36 if you multiply. But the sum give you what? -37, which is not the case here, so it doesn't work. We check with a 2. 2 multiplied by what number give you 36? 2 multiplied by 18. But we say that the two numbers will be negative. So -8 and the -18 and the -2. So -2 multiplied by -18 give you what? Positive 36. But if you add the -2 to -8, that gives you what? -20, which is not the case here. So it doesn't work. We take a 3. 3 multiplied by what give you 36? 3 multiplied by 12. But we say that the two numbers are negative. So -3 multiplied by -12. But -3 added to -12 is -15, which is not the case here. That means what? -3 and -12 also don't work. We move to 4. 4 multiplied by what number give you 36? 4 multiplied by 9. But we say that the two numbers are negative. So -9 and -4. But -4 added to -9 is what? -13, which is not the case here because here we have a -12. So it doesn't work. 5 multiplied by what number give you 36? No, doesn't work. 5. So we need to move to 6. You see? So this is like a long method if you don't know your multiplication table. So if we take a 6, 6 multiplied by what number give you 36? 6 multiplied by 6. Okay, but we say that the two numbers are negative. So -6 multiplied by -6. And then if we do -6 plus -6, do we get -12? Yes. So the two numbers are -6. Okay. And yes, that works. Okay. So after you find the two numbers, now you go to the original expression equation, and we're going to rewrite that equation. So remember, we have a 4x squared plus 9 equals 12, and then we rewrite this as 4x squared minus 12x plus 9 is equal to 0. So because we rewrite the middle term always when we find the two numbers, so we're going to do the same thing here. So we're going to have -6x minus 6x plus 9 is equal to 0. You have to understand that the -12x, okay, is same as -6x minus 6x. Now we're going to factor this. I'm taking 2 by 2, the first two and the last two. GCF here going to be 2x. Parentheses. Again, you have a 2x and minus 3. If you check, 2x multiplied by 2x give you 4x squared. 2x multiplied by -3 give you -6. So that means, yes, we factor out correctly. The other side, GCF, you're going to have -3. Now, parentheses, 2x minus 3. Let's check. -3 multiplied by 2x is -6x. -3 multiplied by -3 is +9. And yes, at this step, you must get, the same expression inside the parentheses, so the same factor. So to finish this problem, you have to understand that we're going to have, so this is equal to 0, we're going to have a 2x minus 3. Okay, here, okay, and the leftover 2x minus 3. Wow. So we get 2x minus 3 multiplied by itself. So it's like a 2x minus 3 parentheses to the second power. Okay, so we're going to have the same solution, but anyway, we have to split this in two. We take a 2x minus 3 is equal to 0. To solve for x, we're going to add the 3, and we get 2x is equal to 3. After that, we're going to divide both sides by 2, and we get x is equal to 3/2. And yes, this is our solution. So this is a unique solution because even if you take the second part, 2x minus 3, you solve it, you get the same answer. So from the two factors, you get the same answer. Therefore, the answer to this equation is x equals 3/2. Okay, so you have to understand that practice, makes perfect. To better understand this concept, you have to practice until you get it done. So thank you for your attention. Feel free to leave any comments and make sure, you subscribe so you can get the next video. Thank you.